good day, everyone. Our discussion for today will be about the cultural diversity in the workplace. So in every organization, there are lots of people involved and there is always a team. And within a team, there is an individual who performs his or her task for the team. So there is an opportunity to know those people and to work with those diverse population or diverse employees within that organization. And Stephen R. Covey once said that strength lies in differences, not in similarities, meaning there are lots of potentials for each and every individual. So we need to maximize those potentials and split works, or collaborate, work with the team, and strengthen every potentials that they have. So how are we going to manage cultural diversity in the workplace? Developing cultural competence results in an ability to understand, communicate with, and effectively interact with people across cultures and work with varying cultures, beliefs, and schedules. While there are various cultural variations, here are some essential to the workplace. First is communication. So providing information accurately and promptly is very critical to effective work and team performance. This is a particularly important when project is troubled and needs immediate corrective actions. So, however, some people from different cultures vary in how, for example, they relate to bad news. Like for an instance, in the industry, whenever there is a customer complaints, difference between how a manager respond to that complaint really shows that if he or she is an effective manager. So people from some Asian cultures are reluctant to give supervisors bad news, while those from other cultures may exaggerate it. So some supervisors and managers are proactive and some are reactive. So it is much better to be proactive or to think on that the cause or what are the causes of the complaints and to think for the possible solutions, and also to consider that those complaints will serve as opportunity to learn and opportunity to change whatever it is that goes wrong. So very crucial is communication in managing cultural diversity. Next, we have team building. So some cultures like the US are individualistic and people want to go it alone. Other cultures value cooperation within or among other teams. Team building issues can become more problematic as teams are comprised of people from a mix of these cultural types. Effective cross-cultural team building is essential to benefiting from the potential advantages of cultural diversity in the workplace and is one of the top benefits of diversity training in the workplace. So like what I've said a while ago, there are lots of potentials for each and every individual, and we can use that as our strength, by considering those potentials as advantages, as our advantages, because we have this talented team members, we have knowledgeable team members. So it is very important to build the strength of the team. It is always enjoyable to work with a group than to work alone. So there's also saying two heads are better than one. So if there is a complaint or if there are problems within your business, you have your team to help you on how to solve the problems, but you also need to know what are your duties and responsibilities and what are the boundaries or the standards operating procedures that you need to implement even without asking them. So you need to know what are the capabilities or what are the your strength alone, so as you can contribute with the group. Okay. Next, number 3, time. So cultures differ in how they view time. For example, they differ in the balance between work and family life, and workplace mix between work and social behavior. Other differences include the perception of overtime or even the exact meaning of deadline. So different perceptions of time can cause a great misunderstandings and mishap in the workplace, especially with scheduling and deadlines. Perceptions of time underscore the importance of cultural diversity in the workplace and how it can impact everyday work. So as much as possible, we need to follow what is being scheduled, and we need to, for example, in a meeting, we need to come few time or few hours before the set schedule for us to be able to prepare ourselves and to be ready on the unexpected happenings. So this is also a sign of professionalism and respect to others' time. So that this is also very important in managing cultural diversity. Okay. Next, we have schedules. So work can be impacted by cultural and religious events. The business world generally runs on the Western secular year, beginning with January 1 and ending in or with December 31. But some cultures use wildly different calendars to determine New Year's or specific holidays. So for example, Eastern Orthodox Christians celebrate Christmas on a different day from Western Christians, and for Muslims, Friday is a day for prayer. So these variations can affect the workplace as people require time off to observe their holidays. So we really need to consider those holidays for different cultures or religions. And as future managers, you will able to schedule your staff, and you are also being able to understand the reasons, most especially when it comes to the religions. So you need to allow them for a day off. And there are differences between schedules, and that really affect on how you manage your workforce. Okay, so for, of course, in a country, there is a specific schedule. So like with the example here on the slide, so January 1 and ending with December 31st. So we need to know what are those holidays for us to easily schedule our staff that they should be available for those holidays, and for us to be able to know what are those holidays for specific religions, okay, and for us to allow them to have their off. Okay, so this is also very important in managing cultural diversity in the workplace. Okay, so how are we going to develop cultural competence? So of course, first we need to be aware or to have a cultural awareness. So this is a skill to understand one's reactions to people who are different and how our behavior might interfere with effective working relationships. We also need to learn to overcome stereotypes. We need to see people as individuals and focus on actual behavior rather than our preconceived and often biased notions. So we need to understand the culture of everybody. And as we have our discussions for lesson 1, understanding the culture, really need to think deep when it comes to the culture as conceptualized as being systematic. So we need to think deep, to understand their culture, and we should not judge them based on what we see outside. Okay, so we need to be culture, or we need to have a cultural awareness in response to others' actions. Okay. Next is attitude. So this is the companion skill to awareness. Attitude enables people to examine their values and beliefs about cultural differences and understand their origins. It is important that to focus on facts rather than judgment. So also note that suggesting that some people are more biased and prejudiced than others can quickly sabotage cultural training. The goal is managing cultural diversity in the workplace and creating effective working relationships and not to make converts. So we really need to be professional in terms on how we react to people. So this is also connected with cultural awareness. We need to be professional working with them. There's no time for us to think negatively about our colleagues, and we really need to understand where they are coming from. So just focus on the positive side and focus on how we are able to develop a healthy relationship with our coworkers, even though we have different cultural backgrounds. So stop thinking negative to others and to easily judge others based on how we just see the things that is visible only in with our eyes. Okay, so attitude is also very important now in order to develop cultural competence. Okay, of course, knowledge. So social science research indicates that our values and beliefs about equality may be inconsistent with behavior. So ironically, we are often unaware of this. Knowledge about our own behavior and how it relates to fairness and workforce effectiveness is an essential skill. So even though we know or we are knowledgeable about the culture, but sometimes we are not able to execute with how we behave. So we really need to balance or to match what we think and on how we execute our actions with our colleagues. So this is, according to the slide, this is a very important, or this is an essential skill to develop. No? So we need to be knowledgeable also about our own behavior and how are we going to create relationship with our colleagues. So it is also essential to be knowledgeable about other cultures, from communication styles to holidays and religious events. Okay, so the minimum objective is tolerance, which is essential for effective teamwork. And the differences are what make tolerance necessary, and tolerance is what makes differences possible. So we need to accept what the culture, what are our team or colleagues' cultures, because that's their origin, and we can do nothing about it. And we just need to accept that we have our own differences, we have our own traditions, beliefs, religions, and to respect each other. So when it comes to working professionally inside an organization. Okay, next is skills. So the goal of training in awareness, attitude, and knowledge should be skills that allow organizational leaders and employees to make cultural competence a seamless part of the workplace. So the new environment is defined by understanding, communicating, cooperating, and providing leadership across cultures. So let us emphasize this concept. So we need to define the new work environment by understanding, by communicating, cooperating, and providing leadership. So across different cultures. So it's not only that we understand, but we need to execute what we are knowledgeable about, and we need to turn that into actions in order to provide a good leadership, or in order to manage this cultural diverse workforce. So managing cultural diversity in the workplace is also the challenge for different organizations that want to profit from a competitive advantage in the 21st economy. Okay, so this is also been a challenging situation for the 21st century economy, having a diverse workforce. So what are the 7 essential workplace cultural competence? What is cultural diversity in the workplace? So when we say culture, this refers to values, the norms, the traditions that affect the way a member of a group typically perceives, thinks, interacts, behaves, and make judgments. So we already discussed this on our first topic, understanding culture. So here are the 7 essentials of workplace cultural competence. So first is beliefs and worldview. So people have fundamentally different ways of seeing the world and their role on it. In the West, people tend to believe they're in charge of their fate. So we have different beliefs, we have different views. So we should just respect those differences in order to have a smooth relationship within the workplace. Next is communication styles. Different people have widely different ways of communication, especially regarding context and directness. So for example, in North America, people tend to say what they mean, but in other countries but in most cultures, people are more indirect. They are more indirect, which can seem more confusing or even misleading. So we have different communication styles. Some people or some nationalities, they have this direct way of saying things. No, they mean those things that they said, but in some other cultures, no, they do not intend to speak or to act directly on what they mean. So people are more indirect in terms of how they express their true feelings and what they really mean of doing that thing. Okay, so sometimes it can be confusing. So it also depends on our communication styles, on how we talk, how we converse with someone, and how we are able to deliver our messages to them. Okay, so next is formality. So cultures differ greatly in greetings, manners, and etiquette. So in the US, people tend to be both casual, both in dress and behavior. But in most other cultures, formality is more valued and is an essential sign of respect. So here in our country, so we are trained to be more formal when we have meetings, when we have to meet executives, and when we have these professions that really need for us to be more formal. But when it comes to being casual or being just relaxed, so it also depends on how or who are we going to meet or what are our tasks to be done. So just always remember that we need to be professionals in different manners, such as in communication, how we present ourselves to others, and how we stand on what we are saying. Okay? And we just need to be respectful. Okay. Next is hierarchy. So this is also a essential factor or component when it comes to workplace cultural competence. So we have here the definition or the explanation. So cultures differ in whether their societies are horizontal or vertical. In the West, people are generally seen as equals, but in Asian, Latin, and Middle Eastern cultures, there is much more emphasis on and comfort with hierarchy and strong leaderships concentrated at the top. So there are different types of leadership style. So it depends on on what is your personality in terms of leadership. So there are types of leaders who are very authoritarian, and there are some who are democratic. So it really depends on what is your belief on how to handle people. and how you manage them, as long as you get the goal of the company and you respect them also as being part of your team. Okay. Next is perception of time. So in addition to diverse religious and cultural events, people differ greatly in the perception of time. So Americans tend to be short-term and fixed deadlines. But in other cultures, people tend to think more. They're able to think more, the long-term and dates, and they are also able to treat deadlines as being flexible. So we are known of this kind of culture that for the Western countries or for the American for an instance, they are very conscious on time on how they are able to submit on time, to see people or to meet people in strict compliance to the time given. So, but in other countries, no, such as here in the Philippines, so we have this thinking of extending time or being much flexible on the deadlines, no, or sometimes being late, no, with a in attending a meeting. But as I said a while ago, we need to be respectful. No, we need to respect also the time of the people who are attending the meeting, for us able to also finish early. So as we start early, we are able to finish early. So perception of time is also an essential workplace cultural competence. So we need to really manage our time properly. Okay, next is values and priorities. So in North America, there is a greater emphasis on the individual and career and less loyalty between employer and employee. So, but in the Asian and Latin cultures, there is a greater emphasis on the group and long-term business and work relationships. So we are really different in terms of how we value things and what are our priorities. Um, we see distinct differences between North American people and Asian and Latin cultures. So we just need to respect each culture to study and to be knowledgeable. Why they behave as like this, no? And they are more independent in terms of they are thinking of they are able to perform tasks individually. Okay? And here it said that they are less loyal between employer and employee. Okay, so um, there are times that if they really wanted to say or to say even to talk to people or to bosses, or to see what are their wrongdoings, no, they're able to tell that straightly to the face of even the even the position of the people that or the person that he will talk to is much higher than him. Okay, so they are able to talk straightly. But in other cultures, they are having these considerations on what to do, on thinking of the hierarchy, thinking of what will be the right way of saying things. So it differs in terms of values and priorities. Okay, next is everyone's unique. So finally, this is very important to remember that cultural guidelines are only that guidelines. Every person is a unique, as their singular fingerprints, and it's important to perceive the individual. So even though we have or we are included in a team's culture, organization culture, we have this individual culture or level of culture within us, which is very distinct. That we have this original belief or based on how we are being raised, by our family. So we cannot be influenced easily because we have these differences and everybody is unique. So everybody is different from each other and we have different stance on situations that we are seeing and experiencing. Okay, so we are going now to leading culturally diverse teams. Okay, so these are the essentials for managing multicultural teams. So first, um, we are going to experience how to manage individual versus group. So some cultures are focused on the individual, while others prize the group. Do they compete or collaborate? So when an organization is focused on giving or pricing or giving uh, rewards to an individual rather than to a group, so there is always a different perception about it. So when and vice versa, when they have this thinking of giving a group or pricing a group than individual, also they have different ways or different reasons why they're doing this. So either people in a group are competing or collaborating. Okay, so in the US, for example, people generally focus on the individual. Each person has responsibilities and it's up to him or her to get the job done. So employees are also more short term and companies' employees are less loyal to each other. People move around from job to job. So that's why there are lots of part-time jobs in the US and compared to us here in the Philippines. So once you are in the company, you cannot apply to other company. But there in the United States, they're able to allow people to work with numerous jobs because they have this culture. No, they allow people to be employed to different jobs that they want. Okay, so the culture rooted from short term, no, more short term, and companies employees are less loyal to each other. So that's why they are able to move around or they're able to have more jobs as they want. So but in most other parts of the world, no, people are group oriented. So we are included in this type of culture, the Asia, Latin America, and Middle East. So in these regions, the nation, organization, and family come first. And there is more emphasis on team collaboration and group share praise or blame. So we are more on this type of um, management, no, in terms of multicultural teams. Okay, so we are considering the strengths of every member of the team, and we are emphasizing collaboration or group work or teamwork, no? And we believe that we can achieve higher if we work together. Okay, so again, this is no in different perspective. So you can lead or you can manage your multicultural teams in a way that you will acknowledge the individual or in a way that you will acknowledge or see the potentials of a group. Okay. Next is, are you going to be an authoritarian leader or egalitarian leader? So work is also affected by whether team members come from cultures that are authoritarian or egalitarian. So in egalitarian cultures, leaders and team members are more likely to see each other as equals. Example is a founding credo of the US, all men are created equal. So this is where the concept came from. So in these egalitarian cultures, authority and decision making are often shared by many. So in egalitarian societies, leaders are often seen as equals, they're highly accessible, and are addressed by their first name. So this is also depending upon the management style of a leader. So on how he or she sees what is the most effective way of treating his or her employees, and on how he inspire them, or he or she inspires them in the manner on how he manages or she manages the team. So it depends. Okay. And the other one is authoritarian. So in this type of culture, people are more accustomed to strong consolidated leaders from the top. Okay, so in Asia, Latin America, and the Middle East, power and decision making is concentrated among those the top. People from these cultures are more likely focused to hierarchy and class, and there is a greater emphasis on and respect for seniority and hierarchy. In authoritarian societies, they are most distant and wield absolute power. And in this regard, egalitarian team members often see the role as pleasing the boss, even if without or withholding or delaying bad news. Okay, so there is a difference between egalitarian and authoritarian. So for the authoritarian cultures, they are strong, they are more um, focused on the top management, that on what they want to do or what the decision is, which should be strongly implemented. No? And also they are more focused on the hierarchy and the class or in the positions that we have in the organization. And as compared to egalitarian, so authoritarian societies are more distant, and they are having this a great emphasis on power. Okay, so those are the different types of managing multicultural teams. Again, this is depend on how a leader will see what is the most effective way of managing his or her colleagues. Okay, so here are the references for today's discussion. Okay, so just remember that we need just to respect each other, each culture or the traditions that we are that we learned since we are young or from our ancestors, and also to know what are individualities and what are those cultures unique from us, and to be able to be also true to ourselves in behaving inside the organization, and to be always respectful. So as a part of the management team, for example, we just need to know what are the goals of the company, and afterwards to execute what is best for the company by not forgetting what is the importance of the cultures for each and everybody in the team. Okay, so culture is very diverse, and having a cultural diverse workforce really gives opportunities and knowledge to each and every member of the group, opportunities for the organization to be um, much prosperous in terms of their standing in the industry, or to be much successful because they have this diverse culture within their workplace. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you learned something from today's discussion. Stay safe and healthy, everyone.